Daniel Reed believed perfection was protection. If he said the right thing, made no mistakes, worked harder than everyone else, nothing could hurt him. But what Daniel didn't know was this: perfection doesn't protect you, it isolates you. And sometimes the cost of being perfect is becoming invisible. Daniel was the kind of man people admired from a distance. 34 years old, senior project manager at a respected tech company in Chicago. Clean apartment, organized desk, structured mornings, gym at 5:30 a.m. every day. His calendar looked like a military blueprint. His inbox, 0 unread emails. His presentations, flawless. On paper, Daniel was a success story. But in real life, he was tired. Not physically, mentally. Every conversation felt like a performance. Every task felt like a test. Every decision felt permanent. He triple-checked emails before sending them. He rewrote simple texts 5 times. If someone said, "Let's talk later," he replayed the interaction in his mind for hours. Did I say something wrong? Did I look unprepared? Did they notice that one small mistake? Perfectionism disguised itself as ambition, as discipline, as high standards. But underneath it, Daniel was afraid. Afraid of disappointing people, afraid of being average, afraid of not being enough. He told himself this pressure was normal, that successful people feel this way. But success had become a silent prison. At work, Daniel never delegated. "It's faster if I do it," he'd say. The truth, he didn't trust anyone else to meet his standards. At home, he avoided dating seriously. "I'm focused on my career." The truth, he didn't want anyone seeing his imperfections up close. Perfectionism had quietly reshaped his life. He didn't celebrate achievements, he corrected flaws. He didn't rest, he optimized. He didn't feel proud, he felt relief. And relief only lasted a few minutes before the next standard appeared. Psychologists often describe perfectionism as a coping mechanism, a way to gain control in uncertain environments, a way to earn approval. Daniel never called it that. He called it being responsible. But responsibility wasn't what kept him awake at night. Fear did. The first crack didn't look dramatic. It came disguised as opportunity. Daniel's company was launching a major nationwide software rollout, millions of dollars involved, national attention. His boss, Karen, called him into her office. "We want you to lead it. This is big, executive-level exposure." He smiled, calm, composed. Inside, his heart was racing. This was everything he worked for, and everything he feared. For weeks, he lived at the office. He reviewed every document personally. He corrected minor formatting issues at midnight. He rejected drafts that were 98% complete because they weren't perfect. His team started staying late too. At first, they admired his dedication. Then, they started avoiding him. One afternoon, his assistant Mia knocked gently on his glass office door. "Daniel, the team's asking if we can submit the draft. It's ready." Daniel skimmed the document again. Line 47 had awkward phrasing. Slide 12 font size was slightly inconsistent. The financial projection model could be cleaner. "It's not ready," he said calmly. "Give me 2 more days." Mia hesitated. "The deadline is tomorrow." "We'll make it work." But they didn't. The submission went in late. And while the content was strong, the delay raised questions. Karen called him in again. "This is unlike you," she said carefully. "What happened?" Daniel defended the quality, the improvements, the refinements. Karen listened quietly. Then she said something he didn't expect. "Daniel, sometimes done is better than perfect." He nodded, but internally he rejected it. That mindset felt careless. That mindset felt dangerous. The real turning point didn't happen at work. It happened on a quiet Sunday evening. Daniel was at his apartment, reviewing a performance self-evaluation form due Monday morning. It should have taken 20 minutes. 3 hours later, he was still editing sentences. He couldn't choose between consistently exceeded expectations and reliably delivered high-quality outcomes. Both sounded slightly wrong. He leaned back in his chair, exhausted, and for the first time, he felt something heavier than pressure. He felt empty. He looked around his apartment. Everything was clean, organized, minimal. But it didn't feel like a home. He checked his phone. No missed calls, no personal messages. He realized something quietly terrifying. He had optimized himself out of connection. No close friends, no partner, no spontaneous moments. Everything in his life was structured around avoiding mistakes. But in avoiding mistakes, he had avoided living. He thought back to college. He used to write short stories, not for grades, not for recognition, just because he enjoyed it. He hadn't written in 10 years. Why? Because he wasn't sure he was good enough. That night, Daniel made a small decision. Not dramatic, not visible. He closed the evaluation form, and he opened the blank document. He started writing, not to publish, not to impress, not to perfect, just to write. The sentences were messy. He didn't edit them. For the first time in years, he allowed something imperfect to exist, and strangely, it felt freeing. But change is uncomfortable. Monday morning, Daniel made a bigger decision. When Karen assigned the next project, he didn't volunteer to control every detail. He delegated. The first time he sent work without over-editing it, his anxiety spiked. He expected criticism. It didn't come. The project moved faster. The team felt lighter. Mia smiled more, and Daniel noticed something surprising. The outcome was still good. Not flawless, but good. Perfectionism had convinced him that without total control, everything would collapse. It didn't. Over the next few weeks, Daniel experimented with imperfection. He sent emails after one review instead of 3. He left work at 6 p.m. without guilt. He signed up for a local writing workshop. In that workshop, he read one of his messy drafts aloud. His hands shook. He expected judgment. Instead, he received thoughtful feedback, encouragement, connection. One woman in the group, Laura, told him, "I like how honest your writing feels." Honest. No one had ever described him that way. At work, Karen pulled him aside again. "This version of you," she said, "is easier to work with. Not smarter, not more impressive, easier." He realized something powerful. Perfection had built walls. Imperfection built bridges. But letting go wasn't easy. There were days he slipped back, days he overthought, days he stayed up rewriting emails. Perfectionism doesn't disappear overnight. It whispers. If you relax, you'll fall behind. If you show flaws, you'll lose respect. If you're not exceptional, you're nothing. Daniel learned to recognize that voice, and instead of obeying it, he questioned it. Is this about excellence, or is this about fear? That question changed everything. Perfectionism often looks like strength, but psychologically, it's often fear wearing a suit. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. In self-reflection, Daniel saw that his need to be perfect wasn't about high standards, it was about self-worth. He believed his value depended on performance, and that belief shaped every decision he made. But here's what he discovered. You can pursue excellence without punishing yourself. You can aim high without tying your identity to outcomes. You can make mistakes without losing your worth. The real growth wasn't in lowering standards, it was in separating identity from achievement. When he stopped chasing flawless outcomes, he started making better decisions. He took creative risks. He built real relationships. He allowed others to contribute. His work didn't decline, it evolved. Psychology teaches us that perfectionism narrows focus. It reduces life to metrics and outcomes. But humanity thrives in imperfection, in laughter that interrupts serious meetings, in stories that aren't polished, in vulnerability that feels slightly uncomfortable. Daniel didn't become careless, he became human. And that made all the difference. A year later, Daniel still sets goals. He still works hard. But now, sometimes he sends a message without rereading it. Sometimes he writes just for himself. Sometimes he chooses connection over control, and every once in a while, he leaves something slightly imperfect on purpose because he learned the quiet truth. Perfection promises safety, but imperfection creates freedom. So here's the question. What is your perfectionism protecting you from, and what might it be costing you? Take a moment. If you stopped trying to be flawless tomorrow, who would you become instead?